All right, well, we're going to go ahead and dive in. Over the course of today's deep dive, if you have questions, please type those in the questions box in your GoToWebinar control panel, and we will either answer those in the questions box or Zach will cover them. So please feel free to send those our way. Zach, you want to tell us a little bit about what we're doing, and I'm just going to hand it over to you.
All right, thanks, Matt. Welcome, everyone. Today we are going to be covering at a high level how you can extend Salesforce consoles with Squid. So without writing Apex code and having to do a lot of Visualforce. And they're also just covering some of the ways that Squid has, with the recent Spring 14 release of Squid, provided new functionality related to consoles and CTI and telephony. So along the way, we're going to be showing some demos, and we're going to be going into some, how you actually make things happen, how you actually build it out. We are going to be posting, along with the deep dive video in the week or so to come, a tutorial covering a bunch of resources with sample pages and some links to some other tutorials about how to get some things set up. So if we go too fast and there's some stuff you didn't see or you didn't feel like was explained in as much depth as you'd like, hopefully we'll cover that in some of our follow-up resources, because there is some stuff here that does take some time to set up and is better covered in a more in-depth tutorial. So without further ado, let's jump in. First question, what is a Salesforce console? So we have that word thrown around, and some of you guys may be familiar with it, maybe using it on a daily basis, but at a high level, the Salesforce way of presenting information to you is based on tabs. And there are really now two main ways of seeing Salesforce data. And those two ways are described as two types of apps. So what we're looking at right here is an app called Sample Console. And you'll notice that in our app picker up on the top right, you guys who are familiar with Salesforce know that you can have a lot of different apps, and each app is essentially a collection of tabs. And an app could also be described as a tab set. That's another way of looking at it. But in contrast to the traditional Salesforce tab set view, where the tabs kind of go along the top of your screen, I'll show that in a second just for reference. But in the console view, they take all of the tabs at the high level and they put them into this little menu over here on the top left. So your tabs kind of get taken away from the top of the screen, freeing up some real estate to see particular records along the top. So it kind of flips things a little bit. Instead of seeing tabs along the top and always having a particular object's tab highlighted, you see particular records along the top of the screen. So for instance, here we're seeing two account records up as tabs along the top. And with the console, you can also see just arbitrary URLs. You don't necessarily have to see particular Salesforce records, but in general, I guess the tabs that you're usually used to, the word tab is going to get thrown around so many times. It's hard to keep it all in line, but bear with me. The tabs that you're used to with normal Salesforce apps, such as like home, leads, accounts, contacts, opportunities, they're all kind of stored up here. And you can jump between these just by clicking on these buttons here. So if I pop over to accounts, this is now going to go bring up our accounts tab view, which we have overridden with Squid. Talk more about that as we go along. But it's going to bring it up here, and then clicking on a particular record is going to bring up that record in one of these tabs. So it's a different way of looking at your Salesforce data. And full disclosure, this is a feature that costs extra money with Salesforce. So if you don't see it in your org, that's probably you may not have purchased it. For Sales Cloud users, I think it's an extra $10 upcharge usually to get this different user interface experience. Service Cloud Console licenses are another one that are another price, which I don't know off the top of my head. But so not everybody has this out of the box. But for those of you guys who are here, who are looking at this, I'm assuming that you may have this or be interested in it. But just that being said, I wanted you guys to know. So if you're looking around like, I don't see any of this. Where are you getting this? Where is this? That may be why. So as far as setting up one of these consoles, this is not an overview of how to use Salesforce console, but just want to get just a basic overview. Let's go to Setup menu. And just show how you can create your own console. So it's a type of app. We go to Create Apps, and you say New. You could also clone an existing app and kind of steal all of its tabs it's already got and all of its settings. But really, here's where you see that a console is just another is one of the two types of apps. Custom app is what you're used to with standard Salesforce. Console is what we're going to choose here. You could say something like My Awesome Console. You could pick an image. We're going to skip that. And then here's where you pick your navigation, the top-level navigation tab. So if I wanted to say leads, let's say pick opportunities, and you can order it however you want. And here, what you're seeing, these items are, of course, just your Salesforce tabs as you define them through Setup Create tabs. So they can be custom object tabs, they can be Visualforce tabs, they can be web tabs, and we'll see some examples of both of those today, both custom object tabs and Visualforce tabs. I'm actually going to throw in pages here. So you can pick and choose from different AppExchange managed apps that you've pulled in. You can kind of mix and match here, pick any object you want, any Visualforce tab you have, and throw them all together here. But I've created a custom Visualforce tab called Leads Queue. I'll show you what that's all about. Maybe I'll throw this in here just for the sake of it. So then, what happens next? The next wrinkle to the whole console view of things is that you can choose how particular records of an object will open relative to the console UI. So in Salesforce, we have the concept of relationships. So opportunities, for instance, are related to an account. They have an account lookup field. Contacts are related to an account. And you may have all different custom relationships. Well, with the consoles, you can choose to have related or child records open as subtabs of their parent, and that parent is loosely defined based on your object model. So for instance, I didn't pick a particular, I'm going to put accounts here, just so it's a little more obvious, so I'll put in accounts. You can say that I want to have opportunity records open as a subtab of an open account. I could also have them open as their own primary tab and never open as subtabs. And we'll show right now what subtabs mean. But this is an important step that you have to think about how you'd really like to see this data based on your use case. Visualforce tabs and web tabs don't have that option. They're not, specific to records. They just all open up as primary tabs. Okay, so now we can determine whether or not a particular console is visible to different profiles. We'll say it's visible to system admin here. And then we should be finished. So we have our new console set up. Okay, there we go. There's my awesome console. It shows up. We can go take a look at it. And now when we go to edit, we should see a few more options that weren't shown before. One other thing that I want to point out here is that you can choose how you show your lists for the custom object tabs, whether you want to have them pinned on the left, pinned to the top, or full screen. Now, different people have different preferences here. The ones I'm going to be showing today are the full screen views. I think that's more helpful when trying to get at particular records, to have the whole screen available, to be able to, kind of have your tab view there rather than trying to condense all your fields into a tiny little left pinned tab. But these are different ways that you can do it. And so some of you guys might be like, well, my tab view doesn't show like that. That may be because you have yours pinned here and it may be a small percentage width or something, or you may have it pinned to the top and have a certain height. So different ways of doing it. But I just want to get that out there. So now that I've kind of shown how to do an awesome console, how to create your own custom console, I'm actually just going to go back to mine. But I wanted to make sure we are all on the same page as to how do we get here? How do we get to this console environment? Okay. So what we're going to cover now is ways that you can extend console functionality with Squid. There's really, at a high level, there's two approaches. One is that you can completely override a standard object console detail or tab page view, completely override it with Squid. That's what we're doing here, and that's actually what I'm going to show mostly today. Another approach is to retain the standard object views as a base, and then the console interface that Salesforce provides gives you a few areas that you can customize. You can, and we'll talk about that in a second. But so you can kind of say predominantly have standard layouts, and then customize a few portions of them with Visualforce and therefore by extension Squid. Or you can just say, throw out the standard layouts entirely. I'm doing everything custom in Visualforce and by Visualforce with Squid. So and here we're going to go through just some examples of overriding the detail and tab views completely with Squid. So here we have when we go to accounts, rather than seeing the standard list of accounts, we're seeing a Squid tab page. So we can go in and customize this with Squid, as you guys hopefully are familiar with. We can go pick, if we want to add new columns, we want to add new fields, whatever, we can do that just by going into the page editor, dragging and dropping them in, and we'll see different fields. So if I wanted to switch this over here, if I wanted to add a new filter, add some new buttons, whatever, I can do that. And that's what shows up both in my console, this is important, both in my console view, as well as, so I noticed I moved the record type over here, as well as if I go back into my standard apps. So here's a standard way of looking at tabs. And I go to my account tab, it's the same page being used in both places. So now going into my accounts, we've also overridden the detail view for the account object. So if I click on a particular account, rather than having the typical URL redirect where the whole window is replaced with Big Castle Construction Company, you get this account opened up in a new console tab. So notice I only have one browser tab open here still, and its title changes to whatever is going on here, but you're not getting all these URL redirects. It's just opening as a saved tab. Now, I guess the benefit of that is that you have all of these accounts open at the same time here, and you can kind of pop between them quickly. So you can kind of have a lot of things happening at once and not have a million browser tabs open. That's one of the advantages. But you'll also notice that because of my settings, I have opportunities set to open as children or as subtabs of their parent account. So I have this Salesforce opportunity here, its products and all that. I have that open as a subtab of the Salesforce.com account. And then if I go to my details area here, this is just going to show me the account detail view, which I also have overridden with Squid. And we could go through and we could see all these particular opportunities here. We could go get another one. This here is going to open up as just going to open up an opportunity over here. So you have, it's a different experience. Let's go talk about what are some of the benefits of squidifying or overriding with Squid these views. Why would you want to do this? What are some of the benefits you get? Well, at a high level, you get a lot of the same benefits you do by going to Squid in general. You get tab pages where you can do lots of filtering and searching. You can get math updates, inline edits, the ability to create new rows. You get a lot of the same benefits that you get with Squid in general here, but then as well as being able to quickly jump to particular records and see them in this tab view. So here's an example of what a normal standard layout is opening within the console. We don't have to override anything, but let's just kind of get a sense of what's the difference here. What's my user experience changing by going to Squid and overriding? So right now I have set up the lead view action is going to be doing standard layouts, but I'm going to jump over to my Squid page assignments here, and I'm going to go set it to use Squid instead. So I'll go to page assignments. You notice I have, currently I have an override for the system administrator. I'm saying use standard layouts instead of going to a Squid page. I'm going to turn that off and make it inactive. So now when I go back to my console, I'm going to close out here. Can't remember if I need to refresh or not. Let's see. Nope, there we go. So now when I go to a particular lead record, it's just going to show me a Squid layout. So I can turn that on and off by profile, as well as by record type here just through page assignments once I've got my Visualforce override pages in place. So that's if you're trying to make this jump to Squidified console views, page assignments are a good way to kind of get in, kind of slowly roll it out to different profiles and be able to turn it on and off as needed as you're testing or just getting adoption of the Squid version. And of course, with Squid here, we have the benefits of being able to do things like show 4 columns worth of data here, maybe show another column down here, have some of our information put into tabs so that we can more easily manage all of our data, have custom buttons up here that we can manage. So a lot of the benefits of standard Squid you get with in the console environment. Now, let's go show some examples of how you set this up. At a very basic level, this is all done the same way you would set up normal Squid to run through Visual. You have to set up a Visualforce override. But the difference here with Squid in console environment is you have to do a slightly different override syntax. Now, we're not going to go too much depth here about that. We're going to talk about that more in our resources that we'll be sending over the next week. But let's go show how this is done. So the first thing we do, let's go look at our buttons and links. So we'll go to buttons, we'll go to leads, and we have to have our lead tab and we have our list actions overridden with a Visualforce page. We also have the lead view overridden with a Visualforce page. Now, for those of you guys who are familiar with Squid, this is going to be look slightly different than what you're used to, but this is essential in order to get your Squid pages to work in console environments. So you don't have to copy all this down and get this exactly figured out right now. But at a high level, the redirect syntax, or the override syntax, you have to use the Squid page Visualforce component rather than doing our action equals action method that you guys may be used to from our tutorials. So we'll be posting examples of how to do this. But this is essential, and this will make it so that your Squid pages will show up in console views as well as in standard tabs and apps. So it's a slightly different syntax, but I just wanted to give you guys an overview of what this looks like, and just point out this is essential to getting going. All right, similar for the lead detail. Here we're running page assignments again, but for the lead view action. And then with that in place, it's similar to what you normally are used to with Squid. You're just setting these overrides, assigning them to the button, link, and action, and then you can manage which particular Squid page is shown with page assignments. So next I'm going to do is I'm going to go into some examples of how you could extend the console without completely overriding with Squid. So let's turn back on the use standard layouts here. Okay, so now when we go back to our console, close FERDS record. Oops. Go to my console. Sample console. All right, so now if I go to this record, we're going to see our standard view here. So with consoles, there are really four or five ways that you can inject custom content using Visualforce into this page. And of course, anywhere that you can put in Visualforce, you could potentially use Squid. So the first way is that you could add a Visualforce component inside of the standard layout, so it would show up somewhere in here. That's one way. The other 4 ways are you can customize what shows up in the top of the page, the left sidebar, the right sidebar, and this bottom sidebar, which is currently showing the interaction log. So let's just go take a look at where that's configured. If we go to our lead page layouts, there is an area at the top right called custom console components. So this is pretty hidden. This is sometimes hard to remember, but this is where you go to customize the console components. And you'll notice that they kind of take the layout of the standard layout of the page, they take the detail view, and they throw it into the center. So it would show up right here in the very center of the page. But then they give you the option to customize what shows up in a right sidebar, a left sidebar, the top sidebar, or the bottom. And you can put in Visualforce pages, Canvas apps, lookups, whatever. But here we have this thing called the interaction log turned on, which is helpful for just really quickly taking notes. So if I'm looking at a lead and I say subject had a call with Ferd and it went great, I can save my log. This records a new activity for the record. So that's a normal feature, but the thing is you can take this area, this is just a standard thing, you could take this and customize it, put whatever you want in here. To do that, we have to go back to our lead layout, and we have to go to our layout properties, and here in order to turn off the standard interaction log, we have to turn it off here, and then we could go back into our custom console components and provide a Visualforce page here. So any of these areas here, as long as you have a Visualforce page whose standard controller is lead, you'd be able to use it here. So I've created an interaction log for the lead. Let's say lead interaction log. It's a custom one. I could go pick this and show it here, and then it would show in our page. Now I'm not going to go through demonstrate what exactly that does and how I built that, but I just want to give you an example of you could put Squid content in all of these areas. So if I go to my Visualforce pages, I have one called lead interaction log, and you notice I'm using the Squid page component again. I'm just saying it's a very, very simple Visualforce page, but it's saying show a Squid page called lead interaction log. So I could then go to Squid and define a page which would do something like here. Maybe it would let you record multiple tasks at once in a table view, see completed tasks, and maybe let you interact with the record as well. So what you're getting there is the ability to have some Squid functionality, but not have to completely override your detail view. So that's one reason why you might want to do that. And then also you might want to put some content in the left or top sidebar. That's up to you, but just want to make sure you're aware that that's an alternative if you're not really quite ready to make the jump to completely overriding the view with Squid. All right. So now let's jump into an example of a custom Visualforce tab that we created that you can show in the console. So if I go back here to my console, you'll notice I have another area here called Leads Queue. This is a Visualforce tab that I created, and what it does is it's going to use some queue functionality, and I wanted to show this because the other part of our demo today is talking about queues, and queues are a great way to take the functionality of console and the power of Squid and use them in conjunction. So you can set up these custom tab pages with Visualforce that can do basically whatever you want. You can have any content in here. It doesn't have to be at all related to what you might normally find on a tab page. What this page is doing is it's kind of letting you organize your leads in the context of expecting there to be duplicates and prioritizing them and merging them. So here we have we have lots of leads coming in, and we're organizing them by the lead company. So we're also showing them top down. So we got a lot of leads from people at Squid. We also have leads from people at Biggest Corp Ever. We got 10 of those. We got 4 leads from Google. Looks like Larry Page is checking out Squid. We got somebody from somebody called Chuck Norris here from Walker, Texas. They're they're doing some stuff. And then once we get to these particular, so we're taking the company and we're using a Squid aggregate model to uniquely identify those companies that are coming in. So then when we go here, we see all of the leads that have this particular company. It's like a lot of people named Shalom Makarath are coming here from Squid. That's my new daughter. That's why lots of her.
There's only one.
There's only really one. But then what we're also providing here is a way to subdivide by email. So I can then drill in a step further and say, oh, it looks like I've got 8 leads with the email shalom@gmail.com. Let's go check out all those leads. I'm going to have one with no email. I could also do it by name. So I have 8 leads for Squid named Shalom Makarath. And I can drill in a step further. And then what I can go do is I can use Squid's mass actions to merge the leads in mass. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, there we go. We got 3 Shaloms. Let's merge these leads. Okay, poof. We got, say it's rating is hot. Let's choose the best lead source. That's great. We'll click merge. All right, cool. We merged that lead. Now let's close and refresh our table. All right, down to only 6 Shaloms. Now, Salesforce only lets you merge 3 at a time, but I just was creating these so I didn't have to make any more leads. But you can go through and do this kind of in mass, roll through your different companies. And this is also, if you have a custom app for prioritizing your leads, you might have like a specific score like Pardot or HubSpot that you might want to prioritize them by. And with the queue, we don't have any color coding here, but you can define what this queue tag card looks like here, and you could have it colored by a certain threshold, have breakpoints that say it's green or orange or something that prioritizes it. This is just trying to get you some ideas of ways that you can take Squid components, throw them in a console, and help maximize your use of the console. So here, within all this, if I click on a particular record, this is again going to open in the console view like I'd expect it to. And then I can, of course, go back and turn it on to have a complete Squid page. So let's just kind of walk through a little bit of this and see how we did this. I'm going to go to Setup, and I'm going to go to my Leads Queue Visualforce page. So this is the first step. This here is where I'm saying I want to use a particular Squid page, lead to do queue, which we'll look at in a second. And I'm throwing it in a basic Visualforce wrapper. Then I go to tabs, and I created a new Visualforce tab called Leads Queue, whose content was this Visualforce page. And while I was creating that, I said that I wanted to add it to the console app called Sample Console. Now, I can go into my console app, and I can add additional Visualforce tabs in here. But once I get that in place, I then, rather than having to edit Visualforce, I can go in here and just start editing this to my heart's content. So first thing I did was I created this queue up here, and I wanted to have some filters to be able to quickly get at particular records. So I want to say, just show me the really hot leads. Okay, cool. Just show me the rate, maybe the leads that were created today. Lots of Squid leads created today. Source, status, etc. Also searching. So if I want to search for just leads from the company Squid, looks like there's somebody here, a fake company that is also affiliated with Squid somehow. What is something with him is Squid. I'm not sure what it is. Squid, there we go. So I could also filter it just down to just leads owned by me. There we go. Now, so these are only the leads owned by me. So all of these are Squid capabilities that are really powerful in a fast-paced console environment for, not having to use list views to filter down your result set, but being able to get at the data you're interested in really, really quickly using filters and search. So let's actually go jump into this page and see how we did some of this. So here I have my lead dedupe queue page. The primary way that this is helpful is that I've created an aggregate model on the lead object where I'm grouping all of my leads by company. So this is going to then let me do an aggregate and show that show how many records in my database of leads have Squid as their company name. And then when I'm also defining a bunch of queue filters, letting me say like just my leads, any rating, such stuff like that. But then for my queue item action, I'm going to load up a Squid page, and I'm passing into it my company. So the company that I selected. So I pass in a company URL parameter. I'm URL encoding it to make sure that if it has any weird characters in it, that it doesn't break my URL. That's an important step when doing aggregate data. But I pass this into my leads for company page. Let's go take a look at that. Leads for company. And so then this here is going to have its own model here on all that takes in that company URL parameter and runs its own query. It's on this model says, just show me all leads where the company is the company that I passed in. And then I'm using that to show this, I'm using a merge here to show that that company up here in the top of here so that I can see, I can always see what company I'm dealing with up in the page title. And then I have these secondary models here where I have a condition on company again, but then I further group and I say, given all leads that are in a particular company, let's uniquely group them by email, and then let's uniquely group them by name, so that I could pick and choose how I want to parse through my duplicate leads, parse through by email, or parse through by name. So that's, I think a lot of people we've seen have just really taken queues and aggregate models and used them to some pretty amazing results. Seen some great examples from some of our partners on that. And then merging that with the console gives you this way to manage your data way better than you're going to get with the standard list views.
Hey, Zach.
Yeah.
Jacob has a question here, and it's kind of more of a general consoles question, but
okay.
Seems like a good place to pause.
Okay.
So, Jacob asked, if Squid can handle the independent scrolling between panes, is there any benefit to consoles besides just the flip tab view, records as tabs as opposed to tables?
That sounds like more of a philosophical question than anything.
We deal in philosophy.
Yeah.
Is there any benefit to the console view? Well, I think that's probably the primary benefit you're looking at right now is just having the record saved up in particular tabs, and other than that, a lot of the functionality is
going to be
similar. Yeah. So that's kind of what you're looking at.
And this is really kind of geared towards people who are already sort of in love with the console, and it's like, okay, well, how can you make it that much better, or kind of infuse some more Squid functionality into it also?
Yeah.
A lot of people ask us that question specifically. Well, can we use it with the console? And so
exactly.
Kind of in the vein of that.
Yeah, this is, we see lots of people using the console, and they have, they really go to Visualforce very quickly for things like this, like to get some sort of lead management view, rather than wanting to use the standard list views. Just doesn't really work well in a fast-paced environment with the queue. And so we're trying to show people ways that they can maximize on their console investment with Squid, kind of taking it to a whole other level of functionality.
Yep.
So again, a philosophy question.
And then Ian was asking if we're going to make the XML for this page, for these screens, available as
Yes.
as part of the resources that we're going to include when we post it.
Yes, absolutely.
Cool. Okay.
All right. So the next thing I want to show, at kind of wrapping up here, is you'll notice there's a little phone button. Some of you guys who were surprised by that, or some of you may be like, I don't have that phone button. How does that get there? Well, this is this is magic, basically. No, with Salesforce, there's a concept of a call center, and if you have a call center configured for your particular users, then they'll see this phone icon here, which allows them to leverage a soft phone within Salesforce to do live dialing out to records. So for instance, I here have my daughter's number, actually my number here set up, and you notice that in the console view, there's a little phone pop-up in the bottom right corner. And I could go through, so this is just a custom soft phone we made that uses Twilio to be able to dial out to particular areas. So I could say, call a number, and then it would dial out and make a Twilio call. So I'll be on my call, blah, 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 establish the call. I'm going to hang that up. But this little phone icon is really just a click to dial. It'll let you open up that phone window with the number pre-populated. So there we go. I just click it from anywhere, and it's going to pop that open. I'm only going to click that number because I know it's safe. But that's a new feature that we introduced in Squid Spring 14, where this phone icon will show up if you have a call center configured. This also works in the regular app. So if we go over here, we're going to go pop open our leads page. So this only works if you have in the regular view, it only works if you have the sidebar enabled. That's one wrinkle there. So here we have the sidebar turned off. I wonder if I have my contacts that has it enabled. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so if I pop open the collapsible sidebar, there in the standard UI, the soft phones always show up in this top left sidebar component here. There really isn't anywhere else you can put it. So that's one benefit of the console, is that you get a better way to embed your soft phone. Definitely, this is kind of clunky, but if I pop this open here, it's going to do the same thing. It'll establish a call, and I'll see it up here. I can hang it up. But that's a new feature of Squid Spring 14. And to get this set up, for those of you guys who are just wondering, like, okay, what do you mean by a call center? Let's go to a user record. So I'll go to users, go to my own record, and then down in the right corner, there's this little call center field. So a call center, I'm going to pop this open, is an object in Salesforce that it links to a CTI adapter. So this is really a Visualforce page, or it could be some other URL. It could be hosted on your company's local intranet that you then configure in here, and that's what gets basically iframed in to this area up here, or within the console down to the bottom right. So you configure this, and then Salesforce configures, like, okay, let's send messages back and forth between the UI here and the rest of your pages, so that if I initiate a call from this page, it'll go influence the phone over there and go send it out. So if I took this off of my user record, if I got rid of my call center, take that off, and then went back to this page, this top sidebar is not going to show up, and the little phone icon is not going to show up either. So that's exactly what happens in regular Salesforce layouts, but now it's happening in Squid. Okay, so we're going to open it up for questions, and we'll take a look at our questions area.
So yeah, Michael's asking if we can still use the knowledge sidebar component and have it auto search for related articles.
Yes, yeah. So the sidebar components that you have set up with the case. So I didn't show anything with cases here. I just showed leads. But when you deal with the console and the case object, you can have the case feed has various other console components such as the knowledge search, and those should still be usable as well. Yeah.
All right. Brandon's asking, how do you get the thumbnail-sized images in your contacts tab page?
That's a good question. That is
Squid hackery.
So we have an image field on our a Squid image field on our contact object, and then we're showing a. I don't think so.
Oh,
no. Yeah.
Come on.
So you have we just have a template here where we're limiting the width to 25 pixels, and it's kind of different ways of doing the width. But you're really just specifying the width of an image and then limiting it by the size of the column here. But we could go and be more explicit and say width is 25 pixels, height equals 25 pixels, something like that. And then what we're showing is we're getting the file download URL for an image stored using our Squid image component. So we can talk more about that. We have some tutorials on that.
So
that's kind of a tangent.
Definitely a rabbit hole.
Definitely a rabbit hole.
There you go, Brandon. There's your teaser for how to jump into that stuff. If you have more questions about that, you can definitely just shoot us an email at support@squidify.com, and we'll get you rolling with that if you want to use it. Let's see here. So actually, Mark added some good perspective for us. I just replied to him privately, but I think it's good to just go ahead and share. He said, FYI, major value prop for consoles comes from high transaction multi-channel call centers. Primary objects can be represented as all of the active issues that CSR is dealing with, and subtabs remember everything about each issue. Let's see, you can actually log out, restart your computer, come back, and Salesforce will bring it back up. All of the active issues. So Squid adds huge value by allowing basically admin configurable panels to be used. Just my opinion. Well, Mark, we appreciate your opinion, and that was good stuff. All right, guys. Any other questions before we wrap this thing up? Zach, I think that's pretty much everything that you had planned to cover today, right?
Yes.
Cool. All right. Well, everybody, this will be recorded. This was recorded. This webinar was recorded, so I will be putting this up online in the next day or two. If you have any more questions, feel free to email us at support@squidify.com. We will get back to you, or utilize our community. Michael's trying to sneak in right before the deadline. All right. So how about the feed and publisher actions? That is this will be the last question that we get before shutting things down. So how about the feed and publisher actions? There's that.
Okay, so let's see, the chatter feed you can have, and we could have a chatter feed here in our Squid. We have a chatter feed component that you can put in, which will show all of the publisher actions that you have defined for a given object. That's just a component. In the context of a single record, always. Yeah, in the context of a single record, and that's similar in the console view. It's always in the context of a single record. There are some additional features that the standard, like with case feed, you have the email publisher, you have the knowledge search, and probably forget some other ones. But those you can, that's a good example of where you might want to use a combination of some Visualforce and some Squid, or you might want to just not override the entire case detail page with Squid, but you might want to just take some parts of it and put Squid on there, and then you can leverage what the default behavior is. So just those things are definitely, you can still use those, but you might want to pick and choose what you override and what you don't.
Yep, absolutely. All right, cool. Thanks, Michael. Thanks for sneaking that in right before we're finishing up. All right, for everybody else, we are going to go ahead and wrap this up. And like I was beginning to say, I will. This webinar is recorded. The recording will be posted to our YouTube channel and to our community in the next couple days. So look for that. Also, I believe Zach's working on finishing up the resources to be plugged in with the video as well. So look for that also on our community. Thank you so much for attending. We really appreciate all the questions and your attention, and just for spending some time with us. And we'll see you all next time.